And youth have been coordinating their efforts. They wanted to make sure that we had a chance to have someone from our community and communities around us come and talk about their efforts in order for improved drug, opioid, education, awareness, prevention. So we are fortunate to have with us today Miss Stephanie Smith. Before I introduce Stephanie, just remind everyone that this is a guest in our building, so we need to be respectful, giving them our full attention. That means our cell phones aren't out, our earbuds are in, and our eyes are up here. And that is not a difficult thing to do, so please make sure that you are giving our guests the respect and attention they deserve. Stephanie Smith is a 38-year-old woman living in recovery in Tiffin, Ohio. From a hopeless, homeless drug addict to a successful working member of her community, she is now a dedicated advocate for substance abuse treatment and recovery. Stephanie carries a chemical dependency counselor assistant license and is employed by Little Faith Ministries as house manager for Lotus Recovery House located in Tiffin. Stephanie is a committee member of Factor, Families Addicts Community Together for Ongoing Recovery, a nonprofit organization which provides education, support, and resources for anyone affected by drug addiction in Seneca County. Through Factor, Stephanie founded Faithful Furnishings, a furniture donation bank which provides used furniture to persons now in recovery. She is also coordinator for the Seneca County Project Noel, a nonprofit organization that assists children of persons living with substance abuse disorder. Stephanie's personal life experiences with addiction, homelessness, the criminal justice system, and children's services has motivated her to make mental health and addiction recovery her passion, encouraging others to recover out loud and show that anyone can change their life. Please welcome Stephanie Smith.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for listening. When I was thinking about coming today and deciding what I was going to say and what I wasn't going to say this weekend, I got really nervous. I don't usually get nervous when I'm speaking. I speak a lot, and I got really nervous. I'm going to tell you why. Because Red Ribbon Week is the most important thing that this community can do. Red Ribbon Week is so important, and your young minds listening is the most important part of everything that I do. So yeah, I'm nervous. You're young, beautiful students with bright futures. You still have the choices to make the right decisions. When you leave here today, I want you to hear my story. I want you to hear the trauma that I went through. I want you to hear the devastating things that I put myself through. And I want you to walk out and say, I'm not going to be like that. That will never be me. I want you to make that choice. I'm from this community. I'm from Seneca County. I grew up in Tiffin, Ohio, and I went to Tiffin Columbian High School. I was on the flag squad. I was on the newspaper crew. I was involved in a lot of events, and so were my 5 brothers. On the outside, going to high school, I was like every other kid. Involved in everything, didn't seem like there was anything going on. The only thing is inside, there was something going on. I was experiencing a lot of trauma at home, but I wasn't telling anyone about it. I didn't speak about it. I was the only one that knew. I carried that with me. I didn't tell a teacher. I didn't tell a staff member. I didn't tell a family member. And I moved out of high school with a lot of inner turmoil and trauma from what I was going through. But you would never know it looking at my face. So I moved out from high school and I got married. I had 2 children. I got a job. I was successful. And I started a life for myself. Everything seemed to be going well. Still had the inner trauma. Hadn't dealt with it. Didn't talk to anyone about it. I ended up finding prescription drugs through a doctor. I didn't go on the street looking for drugs. I wasn't somebody that was looking to absolutely ruin my life. I was prescribed the drugs. And when I took them, I realized that they made me feel better. What I thought made me feel better really was just numbing all of my feelings at all. And because I didn't know any better, I didn't know what drug addiction was. I didn't know that you could withdraw, get violently ill, if you take prescription medications, certain medications, and then stop taking them. I had no idea that this could happen. I continued to take them, and I continued to seek them. It's so important for me to tell you that because I don't remember sitting where you're at. I don't remember anyone telling me these things. It may or may not have happened, but I don't remember it. So it's so important that you hear me when I say there are prescriptions that can be addictive, and those prescriptions can change and ruin your life. And that's how it started with me. Sooner or later, I found friends that liked the same prescriptions, and I started illegally buying and selling them. I started taking them more and more, and I stopped all of my responsibilities with my children, with my family, and with my job. Children's services came into the picture eventually, and I don't blame them. I wasn't a good mom anymore. I wasn't even a good human being. All I cared about was drugs. And it happened so fast to me, I didn't even realize it. I had become a completely different person. For almost 2 years, Children's Services was in my life, and I tried to get better. I tried to go to counseling and do the things that I needed to do to keep my children. The problem was I wasn't getting to the root of things, and I wasn't really taking it that seriously because I still really didn't understand how severe drug addiction is, and I really didn't think that it was that big of a deal. I blamed everyone else. I blamed Children's Services. I blamed my family so that I could continue to use and continue to do the things I wanted to do. See, I wasn't even the same person anymore because that's not something that I would have said before. Eventually, I lost my children. They went to foster care, and I could not get them back because I could not stay on the right path. The drugs had taken over my life. I had a choice to make at that point. I wasn't living good. I was headed downhill fast, and my children were in the middle of it. I had a choice to make, and I'm glad to say that I made the right one. In 2013, I walked into the courtroom, and I willingly gave my children up for adoption. And I know that that sounds like, why would you? How could you? Why would you do that? I was really sick. I was so sick. And I had to watch my children cry every time they saw me and cry every time they left me. The last time I saw my kids, they were standing in the corner and my daughter wouldn't even look at me. She didn't know me anymore. She knew the people that she was with. And they deserved a better life than I was giving them. I didn't realize how big of an impact it would have on me. I knew that it was a serious decision, and I knew that I would regret it, but I wanted the best for my kids. So when I walked out of that day, my whole world collapsed. I wasn't a mother anymore. I wasn't going to see them ever again. And I had nothing to live for. So I went to the usual place where I got what I needed, to make me feel better. I went to get the prescription drugs that I so much loved at this time. That was the day I started using heroin and crack cocaine. It was the day after I gave my children up. From that day on, I used every day. I lost my home very quickly. I lost my license. I lost my car. I lost my job. And I lost my dignity. Doing anything I could to get the drugs that I needed at the time. And I really just wanted to die. I had gone from such a different person to this lifeless, hopeless person. For the next 5 years, I spent almost 2 of it in county jails, in 5 different counties. I was homeless, living on couches. absolutely nothing to my name, and I was still searching for the drugs. I can remember walking around in Fremont in the middle of the night thinking, I don't have anybody. I don't have anything. I just want to go. In 2015, I contracted a deadly virus in my arm. It's necrotizing fasciitis, but they call it flesh-eating virus. I contracted the virus from using drugs. I went into a coma, and I was in the hospital while they performed 7 surgeries on my arm to save my life. From my wrist to my shoulder, it was growing fast. On the 7th surgery, they ended up removing my bicep to save me. The surgeon told me, you know, all of the doctors in the room, they just wanted to slap some skin on your arm and be done with you. They didn't care how your arm looked. They said, what's the point? She's a drug addict. She's just gonna go back out and use. And he said, but I didn't do that. I sat in there and made them sit there for 5 hours while I sewed your arm up, stitch by stitch. Please get clean for me. You owe me that, he said to me. You owe me the hours that I spent on your arm to get and have a life. I promised him that I would, and I didn't keep that promise. I went to a nursing home for a month, and I used the entire time I was there. I just couldn't see a point in living. I was arrested, I spent some more time in county jail, and then I got out and used more. What did I have to live for? The last time I was arrested, I passed out at the wheel of my mother's car. I hit a tree on the left side of the road, spun around, went across the road, and slammed my mother's car into a house. I remember thinking, oh my goodness, will this ever end? Can this just be it, please? Just a short time after that, I was in jail, and Judge Mark Repp, he's the municipal judge for Fostoria and for Tiffin, saw me on video. And I asked him if he would let me out of jail, and he said, no, I'm not going to do that. We've tried things your way, and now we're going to try on mine. You look terrible. You're going to die, and I'm not going to let you die on my watch. So he sentenced me to 30 days, and he sentenced me to something called the Vivitrol shot. It was the first time I'd ever heard of it. I think I'd heard of it a few times before, but wasn't listening. And the Vivitrol shot is a monthly shot that reduces your cravings and helps you stay focused so that you can learn and grow and become work on your recovery. He gave me that shot before I got out of jail and put me in a brand new drug court program called Pivot Drug Court Program. I was the first client of the Pivot Drug Court Program. Something clicked in me that time, that last 30 days in jail, because I decided that I wanted to live. So I started getting to work. I followed every suggestion that the drug courts told me. I went to meetings every day. I started surrounding myself with people that were in recovery and people that knew how to live normal, happy, healthy lives. Eventually, I graduated my drug treatment, and I graduated Pivot Drug Court. During that time, I started seeing other people like myself. They wanted to die. They didn't have anything to live for anymore. And I started helping them and showing them how I was doing that. And I think that's the key for me. I think that's why I have been able to succeed and continue to stay clean. Because I found a new purpose. I found a new passion. When I look at someone that's still using, that's lost, I see in their eyes that they have something, that they can make it. And I just want to draw that out of them. Because I have been to the very lowest of lows. I should not have made it out alive. I overdosed 3 times in that 5 years. But I'm standing here. So if I'm standing here, I believe that they can stand here too. I am a committee member now for Factor Support Group, Families, Addicts, Communities Together for Ongoing Recovery. Factor is a nonprofit in Tiffin that will educate, support, and help anyone with resources that is affected by addiction. We have parents of people that are living in recovery come. We have programs like Project Noel for kids affected by addiction. And we offer a phone line service for people that are struggling in addiction to call if they need to talk to a peer support, someone like them, someone that can help navigate them through recovery. And that stuff makes me have a passion today. July of 2019, the Mental Health and Recovery Board opened a recovery house in Tiffin for females, Lotus Recovery House. It's a 7-bed sober living. And essentially what it is, it's a place for people to go when they first get clean, if they have nowhere to, not a safe, sober place to go. So they'll come from jail or treatment, or I'll take them from wherever they're at as long as they're ready and wanting a program of recovery. And we offer them a safe place to stay and programming and help them with transportation and help them with getting into drug addiction treatment and recovery meetings and show them and help them live normal, happy lives and build goals for themselves and complete those goals. I've been working as the house manager for Lotus Recovery House since the first day it opened. And I love my job. Since last summer, 2019, I have watched girls get back their driver's license. I've taken them to pick out their first car. I've watched them get apartments, jobs that they love. I've watched children's services bring children back in their lives because it wasn't over for them. It's so amazing to me to be able to witness this stuff. And the Mental Health and Recovery Services Board has given me that with Lotus Recovery House. I'm sure you're all wondering what happened with my kids, and I'll tell you, I still have not seen them, and that's okay with me. I know that they're with a mom and a dad, and they are extremely happy, and they have happy, healthy lives. I know that. I've been given that information, and I've received pictures, and I've received some info and updates, and I did receive a letter from my daughter last year. That's more than I should have ever received. That's a miracle to me. So I'm not sad about the decision that I made, because it was the right one for them, and it was the right one for me. And now I'm able to stand up and speak and tell my story and talk about what I've been through so that other mothers don't make the same mistake. Because I don't want anyone to have to go through what I go through. Yes, I have a good life. I have great friends. I have a great recovery, and I came from absolute bottom, as you can see. Wonderful mugshot, huh? I have 8 more mugshots. These are just 2 of them. So you can see that I came from having an absolute terrible life, and I'm proud of myself for that. But I will never be able to have my kids in my home again because of the choices that I made. The choice to pick up the drugs, the choice to pick up the prescription. That was my choice. And I don't want you to make the same choice. I want you to know better, because I can't say that I did it. You know, some of you probably have already seen drugs or alcohol. Some of you may have seen it in your parents. And what I want to say to you is this. At your age, it is never too late to change the course of your life. Show me who your friends are, and I'll show you what your future is. Someone said that to me once. Who you hang out with, the things your friends are doing, they're going to have a huge impact on the choices that you make, and the choices that you make will shape your future. So I hope that when you leave here and you look at my new picture and see how great and wonderful my life is, that you remember where it started. And that you remember that it's your choice. It was my choice. All I've got, I wanted to open it up for questions. And I would like you to ask questions. And if you do, you can come up and get a t-shirt for Factor Support Group and a chapstick and a bracelet. Ask me a question, please. I'm open for any. Yes? How long was I in jail? A total of 2 years of the 5 to 6 years that I was in my serious heavy drug addiction was I in jail. Some of the times I spent in jail were 30 days. I spent one time 6 months in jail in the same cell. I was in jail probably a total of 12 times. And actually, I was in jail in 3 different counties, and I had charges in 5 different counties. My charges ranged from endangerment to drug abuse to using drug instruments. And I owed over $7,000 in fines. I'm almost 3 years clean, and I'm happy to say I actually have paid off every penny of those fines. And that's a huge accomplishment for me because fines was really the last thing on my mind. So, you know, to be able to say that I did the right thing and I stepped up and I paid all those fines off, I'm always encouraging people in recovery to just pay a little down at a time because that will affect your future. It affected my driver's license. I couldn't get that back until I paid part of it off, but I did get to. So I would say about 2 years total I spent in jail. You can come up and get a shirt.
What's the worst thing that you've done to get drugs?
He asked me what the worst thing that I've done to get drugs is, and I'll tell you this, okay? I'll tell you this. I did give away my dignity every day to my drug use, okay? There isn't anything I wouldn't have done, but the worst thing that I did was take from my grandmother. She lives in Tennessee, and I lied to her so many times to have her send me money. Doing that to a family member, that's the worst thing that you could do. And she had no idea. She knows now. I was able to come clean with her, and she's very proud of me. But, you know, when you have a change in your brain like I did, there wasn't anything that I wasn't willing to do, and there wasn't anyone that I wasn't willing to hurt. So yeah, I would say it was the hurt that I did to my family members. Come up and get a shirt. Got 2 more. Back there in the green. If I could go back in time, would I change anything in my life? I get asked that question all the time, and I'm thinking about it constantly, so that's a very good question. And I'll tell you this. Would I love to have my children back? Oh, absolutely. I wake up every day wishing that I had my children, but I don't know if one small change would have changed the course of my life or not. I don't know if it would have ended up the same or not. So I would say no, because I feel like my children are very happy, and I am able to help a lot of people this way, and I wouldn't be able to stand up here and talk to you. Got one more.
There's one over there.
Okay.
If you could give your daughter advice on drug abuse, would you?
If I give my daughter advice on drug abuse, would I? Absolutely. I think every parent should talk to their kids about drugs. I think that one of the things was in my generation growing up, it wasn't something we talked about like we do now. I didn't know. I just didn't know how serious it was. So yes, absolutely I would. I would talk with her. I would tell her the things that I went through at the appropriate age and at the appropriate time. And I would make sure that she knew that she had the choice, just like I did. I don't have any shirts left, but I'll still answer questions. My favorite part of my job? Oh, that's a good one. What's the favorite part of my job? I would have to say my favorite part of my job is the successes. Like when I'm sitting in court with someone that is having a really good court week and the judge is up there just talking with them and telling them how amazing they're doing. I always get teary-eyed. Or when one of the girls tells me that they're getting unsupervised visits with their kids and that they're going to be able to bring them home soon, that is emotional for me. So I would say it's not so much my success, but like getting to have the opportunity to see other people changing their life too, and me just being a part of it is the best part of my job. How old are my kids? My daughter will be 13 in November, and my son is 10. So they were young when I gave them up. They have really good lives though, and they have good parents, and I don't want anybody to leave here thinking, oh my gosh, why did she do that, or she has a terrible life, because I'll tell you, I don't regret that decision. Not a day in my life, because if my children would have had to go through the 6 years of hell that I did, then they wouldn't be the kids that they are today. If I was able to see my kids now, would I visit them? I'll tell you, that is a really loaded question. I don't even think you realize, because, yeah, of course I want to see my kids, but I don't want to traumatize them. I don't want this to have been for nothing, So if I see them and it affects them negatively, then what I did will be for nothing. So I think that if the time came that I was able to have contact with them or visit them, then I would need to make sure it was at the right time, that the right things were set up, and that they were ready. What happened with me and my husband? So, the beginning of my drug addiction, I was married with my husband and our kids, and we ended up going our separate ways very early on. While I was still fighting for the kids to get back, he left the state. And as far as I know, he's doing okay. I haven't spoken or talked to him in about 9 years. I was able to finally get a divorce last year. I don't have any ill will towards him. I want to state that because the choices that I made was not because of him, and the choices he made was not because of me. But we did go our separate ways. Losing the kids was just too much. Yes. When I'm in recovery, who is my main support? I would have to say my caseworker at Pivot Drug Court, Jamie Opp, was a big support for me. And I went to Factor Support Group, which is in Tiffin, which I'm now on the committee for. And I help with, I essentially work at a little bit ministries for Factor. But that's where I found my support, was at a support group. There are support groups here in Fostoria, and there are support groups in Tiffin that are specifically designed for people like me. And I found one of those, and I found some people that I could relate to, and it was the difference for me, being able to talk to someone that understood what I was going through. So I would say that was my main support. Anyone else? Well, thank you so much. You guys were wonderful. Thank you so much.